An obvious place to start in today's presentation is what do we actually mean by data maturity? So I'm going to start with a definition. Essentially, it's an organisation's journey. It's a journey towards improvement and increased capability in using data. And of course, the next most obvious question we have to ask is, what do we mean by data? So we've got a really broad and holistic definition of data. We are talking about all the kinds of information an organisation uses. So it's not just, as some people think, about numbers in spreadsheets or information in databases. It's the whole work. So it can include words, it can include images, videos, maps. All of that is data. And of course, it's everywhere in all of our organisations. So typically, we work in the not-for-profit sector. So it would be all the information you have about your beneficiaries, the people you work with. It would be all the information about the other people, like your staff and your volunteers and your board and your other stakeholders and funders. It would include all your information about the services and the activities that you deliver and all the different ways that people engage with it. It would include all of your sort of impact data, all the information about what kind of difference you're making to people's lives. So it will include outcomes and impact data. It might well include feedback and monitoring and performance data. I mean, it's just everywhere, basically, in an organisation, in everyone's job, in every service, in every department. And because it's everywhere, it can be really overwhelming and quite daunting if you want to try and get hold of it at an organisational level. And that's why it's really helpful to have a simple framework to explain to sort of get the big picture. So we have, this is called a data maturity framework. It's got 5 stages to it. It sort of describes an organisation's journey, moving from unaware to emerging to learning to developing and mastering. And our framework has these 7 key themes, which I'll come back to in a moment. I think the thing about maturity frameworks is that they've sort of evolved from a quality management field. And essentially it's about simplifying complexity, but it's also about being able to measure and compare organisations either against each other or against themselves over time. And the aim really of any data maturity framework is to promote best practice. It's about its ultimate purpose is about promoting learning and improvement. So what we found in our research, working with hundreds and hundreds of charities and social enterprises and public sector organisations, is that there are these 7 key themes that are absolutely critical to progressing on this journey. And a couple of them are really obvious. Obviously, you need some data and you need some tools to collect and analyse and store and so on and use it. A couple of them are very much about purpose, so the reasons and the applications that you use them for in your organisation and the rewards and benefits that they bring, and also the analysis in terms of what kind of questions you're asking of your data and what kind of insights and information that's presenting back. But crucially, absolutely crucially, and most importantly, it's about people. So the leadership and the culture are absolutely critical, and so are the skills. And those skills are embedded again all the way across your organisation in all those different roles. Now, we've obviously fleshed out the framework isn't just this. We have actually got a sort of little bit more meat behind the theoretical model. So I'll give you an example of that. Please don't try and read this, okay? I'm just demonstrating the framework document. In fact, we've just launched an updated version of this in January. No theoretical model should ever stay still. So this is about the 3rd iteration of our data maturity theory. But it's about a 15-page document, and it sets out for each of those 7 key themes what the 5 stages would be described as. Now, it's all very well, and do feel free to go and download that. That's on our website, and it's free to use for non-commercial use under a Creative Commons license. I will say of it, it's quite dense and probably only appealing to certain people to read that kind of level. And what people said to us when we first produced our framework was, well, that's really great. But what questions should we be asking ourselves? And we, of course, because we're a sort of data researchy kind of organisation, have been pondering exactly that. How do you measure? What questions do you ask? And so we've devised a data maturity assessment tool that goes alongside it, and it explores a whole set of questions within those themes. So, for example, in the leadership theme, there are a set of questions that are exploring attitudes and plans and capability and investment, for example. Now, the idea of the assessment is that it's much richer because it's primarily about learning. Obviously, as people are taking the assessment, they're learning. And this, in our impact evaluation, the most exciting feedback we've had is that the assessment itself is a tool for learning. So as people are being thinking about the questions and how to answer them, they're also getting a sense of what good and great looks like, and an understanding and a bit of thinking in the context of their own organisations. It's also a way of measuring, and I'll demonstrate a report for you in just a moment. And ultimately, light bulbs, it's really about inspiring people and motivating people to think about how their organisation can improve. So what happens is people take an assessment. The whole assessment takes around 20 minutes, typically. At the end of your 20-minute assessment, you'll get a report that looks something like this. So it will give you an overall stage. So in this organisation, they're at the learning stage. It will give you an overall score out of 5. So in this organisation, they've got scored 2.1 out of 5. And this person has scored the organisation strongest in leadership tools and analysis. And it suggests the weakest areas are uses, data and culture. And you can see also in here benchmarks. So actually our free tool has now been used by over 3,000 people. So you can compare against those benchmarks, and they change all the time as more people complete the assessment. But you can also drill into these areas. So for example, if you drill into leadership on this version, it will show how you scored. So this score here is 2.6 out of 5, and the average is 2.5 out of 5. So it's doing a little bit better on that. But it also breaks down, when I was showing you the whole theoretical framework with those 5 stages, it focuses and says, we think you're probably in this stage, and the next stage up is going to look like this. So it's really about helping to focus in on the areas where an organisation is weakest and needs to make a difference. So what's really exciting from my perspective about data maturity assessment is when you do it at scale. So really the tool has been designed to engage multiple people in the organisation, because you always get that range of perspectives. Some people who think you're doing fantastically, then you'll have the pessimists who say everything's really rubbish and they're no good at that. And what you get when you get a representative sample of people from across the organisation taking the assessment, then you get a kind of collective view on where the organisation really is. I think the biggest number, our biggest number of participants is 653 from one of our largest clients. So it's really great to engage as many people. And actually the tool itself is a way of engaging people collectively to start thinking about data, to sort of have a shared way of framing it in terms of those 7 key themes, to initiate some dialogue, and ultimately to start developing some plans about how they're going to improve. So this is really what I mean about the journey. So it is about this. Obviously, taking the assessment will get you so far, but you're going to need some more people and some resources to implement those plans in order to achieve the great benefits of data maturity. So I'm going to outline those in a little bit more detail now. I've just picked out 7 of the things that have we've found in the most advanced organisations we've found, and these are the kinds of things that they report as being the key benefits. So, I mean, obviously, you'll have people in your organisation who are already subject area experts in whatever it is you do, whether it's international development or mental health or learning disability or environmental. You'll have people who already have those skills. And by using data more effectively and building your data capabilities, you've got an extra resource that is working for your cause in providing insights, enabling you to measure and understand, and providing you with more evidence to support the organisation. And probably the biggest and best benefit that we see is better planning and decision making. So long gone are the days where you might evaluate where your organisation's at on a sort of 3 or 5 year basis. It's now much more real-time data that is needed, much faster moving world. And so being able to have the data at your fingertips to be able to support your planning and decision making, both at a tactical level and a strategic level in your organisation, is a really powerful resource. Better services and products. Some of the key ways that data really help around service and products is partly around the design of the products themselves and the services themselves, understanding the needs and how better to both design it and deliver it. So are there better ways of reaching and delivering your services to people? And also having that virtuous circle of getting the feedback into a continuous improvement around those services and products. Impact, I absolutely love measuring impact. And I think what we've seen in the most advanced organisations is they've really worked at measuring their impact. And as a result of that, they can really stand on their own 2 feet and explain what difference they make in the world. And it really can be really empowering for them and really clarifying for them and their beneficiaries and all of their stakeholders around what kind of impact the organisation has. Efficiency and income are the next ones. Efficiency, probably you're going to be really surprised how much of your time you spend working with data. Typically, it's about 40 to 50% of staff time already, even without any advancement in your data maturity. So there are some real benefits to improving processes and improving the efficiency of what you do. But also by better defining the organisation and better being able to communicate your impact and understand your needs, then it is also quite widely used and quite widely demanded when applying for funding or trying to make the case to donors. And of course, the upside as well for some of those advanced organisations is that they've said it's really helped their credibility and their influence with policymakers, with funders, with partners, and around that sort of thing. Perhaps my final point on this is really about collaboration, because when you get collections of organisations who are working in the same field, who are able to share data effectively, then you get that credibility at scale and an opportunity to influence at scale. And it's kind of always been a really powerful tool for the sector. I know I've run over there, so the next exciting bit is you have an opportunity now to measure your own organisation's data maturity.